Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Before we get started, can we please ask everyone to please turn off their cell phones or put them on the silent feature, please? And today's hearing is being live streamed on YouTube. So if you are coming forward to address the committee, please make sure that you come to the podium and speak loudly. So we want to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So this is now a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act. This meeting is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for minor variance under the provisions of the zoning bylaw and permission to extend and alter lawful non-conforming uses, and also consent to create new lots. So before I get started, just generally, if you are here in interest, or anyone who wishes to receive a copy of the committee's decision, there are decision request forms at the end of the horseshoe here. It is necessary, if you want to get a copy of the committee's decision, to fill out that form completely and leave it with a member of the staff seated to my right. And please include your email address, because if the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is appealed to the Toronto local appeal body, that is how they correspond with people. So just to be sure that anybody who wants a copy of the decision, please fill out one of those forms. So to ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until we deal with all non-contested applications. We would ask, when there are people in interest, that the applicant or the agent and the people in interest go outside the room to have a discussion to see if they can address the concerns or come to any resolutions. If there is no person present in interest, the agent or the applicant will proceed with their presentation if required, and the committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address so that we have it for the record. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are done. The process is that first the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be allowed to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, we please encourage you to select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views, however, covering the same points is not necessary. When your item is called and you are in opposition or support, we ask that you come up and sit on the left-hand side at the time that your agenda item is called. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into the committee for a decision, and that will mark the end of the discussion. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you disagree with a decision that the Committee of Adjustment makes today, you can file an appeal with the Toronto local appeal body. You can get more information about them from their website, which is accessible through the City of Toronto's website, or there's a link on the Committee of Adjustment website. Appeal instructions are included at the bottom of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment. Please note that the committee will not be entertaining extensive revisions to proposals at the hearing today. In this instance, the application will be deferred to ensure revisions are accurate and that all interested parties are informed of these changes. So before we begin the proceedings, confirmation of the last meeting minutes.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would move adoption of the minutes.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay. All in favor? Abstain? Okay, minutes are adopted. Any declarations of interest by committee members or staff for the first section? No. Any files to be closed?
Through you, Madam Chair, there are no files to be closed. There is one item that was moved to the next agenda.
Okay. Any deferral requests at this time?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now going to vet the agenda. So item A1, 30 LEEDS Street, agent or applicant? No, I asked the Secretary Treasurer if there was when we come to your item. Okay. Item A1, 30 LEEDS Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item 1, 1103 Dufferin Street, agent or applicant? Okay. Anyone in interest? Oh, okay, so there's someone in interest. Could the agent or applicant raise their hand again, please? So, sir, they're behind you. So if you guys can, that matter will be stood down if you can have a discussion. Item number 2, 102 Heath Street East, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Yep. Okay, we'll hold that matter down. We encourage you to go outside and have a discussion. Item number 3, 90 Ivy Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone here in interest? Item number 4, 75 ROXTON Road, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Okay, so that matter will be held down. Item number 5, 340 Wallace Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? And item number 6, 1286 DuPont Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Thank you. Number 7, 386 ROXTON Road, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 8, 711 Queen Street East, agent or applicant? Agent or applicant, 711 Queen Street East? Okay, we'll put that over for now. Item number 9, 321 Margarita Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? If I could ask, please, for quiet. Thank you. Item number 10, 75 Indian Grove, agent or applicant? 75 Indian Grove. Okay. Item number 11, 363 Dovercourt Road, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest?
Yep.
Okay, that matter will be held down. Number 12, 21 NELLES Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 13 and item number 14. 811 and 813 Broadview Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest?
Yep.
Okay, those items will be held down. Item number 15, 38 Norway Avenue, agent or applicant?
Over there.
Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 16, 325 Perth Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 17, 33 LANARK Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 18, 245 Windermere Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Item number 19, 860 College Street, agent or applicant? Okay. Anyone in interest? Okay, so that matter will be held down. Item number 20, 196 Shaw Street, agent or applicant? Okay, anyone in interest? Okay. Item number 22, 103 Condor Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Okay. So I'm going to call again for 711 Queen Street East. Anyone here yet? Number 10, 75 Indian Grove. Anyone here yet? Okay, so the matters at the moment being held from this time slot are item number 1, 1103 Dufferin Street, item number 2, 102 Heath Street East, item number 4, 475 Roxton Road, item number 11, 363 Dovercourt Road, item number 13 and 14, 811 and 813 Broadview Avenue, and item 19, 860 College Street. Okay, so we'll start with item A1, 30 Leeds Street. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondent from the applicant, and a previous decision from the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property. Can we just have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Marian Bojankiewicz. Address is 1524 Lornwood Road, Mississauga.
Thank you. Committee members? Okay, I believe this is rather straightforward.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe you and I were at the last hearing
Yes.
when this was held. So I understand an error was made in the notice that we had, so this is just a correction. And I understand you've also asked for a refund of fees, so I'm prepared to move a motion to... Yeah, so I'll move a motion to approve the variances, as I feel it meets the 4 tests, and, you know, we heard everything the last time, so...
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, so the application's approved.
Okay, and then I would also move a motion to waive the fees as it was an error on our part, or refund, sorry, on our part.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, so your application's approved, and your application fee will be refunded.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.
Item number 3, 90 Ivy Avenue. The committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 1 photograph of the subject property, including a photograph showing neighborhood precedent, email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Could we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, I'm the agent, Bernardo Cascone, 80 Chester Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay. Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions?
Questions?
Okay, any questions? Any questions, committee members?
Yeah, I'd like to know how variance number 2, where your main walls are 10.32, and when you're required to have variance 7.32 meters in wall height, how does that fit in with the rest of the neighborhood?
In answer to that, the addition is to the rear of the house and won't be visible from the street.
What is your present floor space index?
In the proposal or in,
What's presently there?
148.4.
how big is it right now?
Is it 148.47?
Existing GFA is 148.47. Over the lot area is over the limit of the GFA, of the index.
So you're looking for 30 additional square meters, essentially.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Are you aware of the condition in the planning report?
Yes, which has to do with the height.
And you're okay with that condition?
Absolutely.
Any other questions, committee members? Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I'm satisfied that the requirements that he's looking for today is truly minor. I would then, my position would be to approve the application if my peers don't have anything else to add.
Are you including the planning condition?
With including planning condition.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Your application with those conditions is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 5, 340, yes. Yes. If everybody can please keep their conversations down. If you need to have a discussion, please go outside the room. It's kind of distracting when we're trying to hear everything. Thank you. Item number 5, 340 Wallace Avenue. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Letter from the agent, Correspondence from the Assistant Planner to Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District. Staff report from the Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry. 12 form letters in support signed by the owners and occupants of Wallace Avenue, Perth Avenue, Elsie Lane, Sousa Mendez Street, and Macaulay Avenue, and a letter in opposition from 350 Wallace Avenue. We have your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Jordan Kemp. I'm an associate with Bousfields, the Planning and Urban Design Office, and we're the agents for the applicant.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? Okay, then questions, committee members?
Your first space index, you're going to 1.11 times instead of what is required, 0.6 times. Why do you need all that space?
So in our view, the proposal provides for a fairly modest level of intensification within close proximity to the transit. As you'll know, the Dundas West Mobility Hub is just around the corner. So to be able to accommodate a built form that fits within the context of the neighborhood, sorry, I should back up. In my view, what we've done is driven the built form first, and that density is merely just an outcome of that. The density itself creates no impacts. We're able to accommodate the built form as it is and create no variances with respect to the rear yard landscaping. We're able to accommodate all the parking that's required on site. So there's no sort of land use or built form impacts resulting from that density. And I'm sure, as you'll have noted in the planning report that was submitted by our office, that the density is in itself on the low end of other density variances that have been approved within the immediate surroundings.
Variance number 4, you're seeking to increase the exterior main wall by 1.25 meters. How does that fit in with the rest of the neighborhood?
So in my view, that variance is fairly technical in nature. The overall height of the building is 10.64 meters, but the actual main wall height, and this is typically an approach, what we've adopted is an approach that's typical to deal with this specific provision regarding main walls in terms of incorporating a step back in the building above the second floor. So the height of the building rises up to 7.7 meters, I believe it is, and then steps back at the front and at the rear up to that full height. So that height is actually stepped back from the public street, and that 7.7 meters is within that permitted main wall height. So the typical approach is again to deal with this. With that zoning provision, are often the introduction of a sloped roof, or alternatively, and planning staff have been supportive of this on a number of applications, is instead of incorporating a sloped roof, you incorporate a building step back so that you can still maintain a contemporary approach to the architecture.
Are you aware of the urban forestry requirement?
I am.
And that fits in okay with you?
It is, yes, sir.
That's my questions, madam.
Just the examples in your report, do you know what radius you used?
I only used the 500, and then I filtered it down from the research request, and then I filtered it down. Essentially, we don't go any further west than the CP tracks. I would say no further north than DuPont to the north, and no further south than Bloor to the west, and likely no further east than Lansdowne.
Okay.
Any other questions, committee members?
Your examples of FSI variances, which, if any of these, are fourplexes or larger?
Offhand, I don't know specifically which ones would be fourplexes. I mean, they reflect a variety and range of uses, from detached dwellings to row houses, which are very typical of the neighborhood, as well as plexes. I find it's often difficult to understand exactly which ones are plexes because of conversions as well.
Yeah, in your report, you just talked about townhouses, stacked townhouses, low-rise apartment buildings up to 4.5 stories. So So you're really talking in terms of the FSI of the structures themselves?
Exactly.
Are there other examples that, with respect to the variance number 5, with respect to the distance from the structure to the ancillary building, is that typical in the neighborhood?
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull that up here. Variance number 5, which is, oh, apologies. Sorry, I don't have the listing right in front of me.
Okay, it's so a lot with a fourplex may have an auxiliary outdoor area used for parking or storing of more than 3 vehicles if the ancillary outdoor area is a minimum of 6 meters from the fourplex on the same lot, and you're asking for 2.3.
Oh, apologies, yes. So I'm not aware of other examples like that. What we're trying to do, and I'll just post it up here. So that's merely to accommodate on the northern portion of the drawing. You can see where we're accommodating the required parking spaces, and all of that will be used in either soft landscaping or permeable surfaces. So it's just there are no structures. It's simply to allow for that parking within the proximity of the building.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just concerned about why do you need only 2.35 on the fourplex when it should be, I think it's 6, should be 6. And variance number 5?
So again, that's intended to be able to accommodate all of the required parking on the site itself. 6 meters is a fairly, generous or stringent requirement in terms of the setback to an existing building, and one I would argue is probably not able to be accommodated on most, lots of this size and character in the former city of Toronto. Again, it's about balancing those priorities. We could accommodate less parking on the site, or we could accommodate that parking and seek a variance to that required setback distance to the parking. And we've gone the route of accommodating the necessary parking on the site.
Any further questions, committee members? Okay,
Just one quick. Why you're not fencing the variance number 6? Why are you not fencing the outdoor ancillary area?
So you'll see here, I'll just point where that is. That's along the east side of the property, and we are unable to accommodate fencing because of the requirements for turning vehicles into those parking spaces. We may be able to do some additional fencing around those parking spaces and adjacent to the parking spaces, if that's the direction of the committee, but.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
My discussion, the only, I think the committee should take a look on the fencing requirement, because he has already violated the bylaw requirement of 6 meters. So I think maybe the committee should give some directions as to what it wants on the matter of fencing.
Any other comments?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think there's a lot of mixed type of housing in this area. There's looks like 4-floor modern structures across the street. There's some a little bit further down. There's some other new buildings. I believe there's stacked townhouses. The area is clearly in transition. There's a lot of support from residents. based on what I read, there have been a lot of revisions made in discussions with planning, so I'm not really sure what it looked like before, but it appears that a lot of adjustments have been made. I don't think that this proposal is out of context in the neighborhood, and I would be inclined to support it.
I'll second that.
Oh, that's a motion, okay. So through you, Madam Chair, then, I would move a motion to approve the application, including forestry condition number 1.
Mr. Carlson, you're seconding. Okay, all in favor? Your application is approved, subject to that condition.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
He supported it.
He supported.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to support it, just,
Item number 6, 1286 DuPont Street. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and a letter of opposition from Ventures Car and Truck Rentals at 1260 DuPont Street. If we could have your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Of course, my name is Adrian Latavsky. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and I'm happy to present and/or answer any questions you may have regarding the application.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a
I need
presentation or
a
you want to proceed?
I need a presentation. He wants to change the usage, the zoning usage.
Of course.
I need a presentation.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, as you mentioned, the application before you is for 2 variances, one to each of the relevant bylaws, namely Bylaw 438-86 and 569-2013, and the request is to permit a vehicle dealership under the newer bylaw, 569-2013, and to permit a sales or hire garage under 438-86. And the proposal is to use the site as a car rental facility with the possibility of some car sales or leasing as an adjunct to that main use. There really is no construction per se proposed on the site. If I may just put this image up on the...
Are you currently using it for this use?
The site is actually vacant today, although there is an existing building. You can just see on this image here, the property is marked by the red dot. And so it's just, and this is a June 2018 aerial photo. And so the site is not being used today. However, historically, it was used.
Structure's there.
The structure is there, yes.
You're using that structure.
Yes. The site was historically used for the use that is being requested here today. In fact, if you were to go onto Google, for example, and go a few years back, you could clearly see that it was used as an enterprise car rental agency. And I can only presume that that use had been grandfathered previously, but the site, that use ceased. The site is now vacant, has been vacant for some years, and so now the intent is to reactivate that use and now to come here before you and request that permission. In terms of the zoning that's in place, you can see that, first of all, the property is zoned EL under the new bylaw and I2 under the 438-86. However, there are site-specific permissions on this site, and these same zones applied to this entire strip of the north side of Dufferin, just across from Dufferin Mall. And if you're familiar with this stretch of road, you will know that there are, in fact, several similar uses already on this stretch, whether they be service stations, car washes, vehicle dealers, or rental agencies as well. And in those cases, various permissions have been granted on a site-specific basis. In fact, on this property here, there is a site-specific permission for a vehicle service station. And so our application is that the use that's requested, A, reflects a historical use of the site, is entirely appropriate and in keeping with the character and what has been going on this north side of the street, and is also very similar to the use that has already permitted the service station use. It's a vehicle-related use, and so in this case, it is, in my opinion, entirely appropriate to make this request through the Committee of Adjustment.
Are you aware of the planning report recommending a 2-year kind of trial basis?
Yes, indeed, and thank you. I was going to transition into that stage of my presentation, and that is that this is in effect a temporary proposal. Ultimately, the applicant intends to come forward with a new development proposal for a self-storage use and has in fact been in discussions with planning staff about that proposal, but the idea is to bring the property back into productive use while that development is formulated and makes its way through the process.
Great. Any questions, committee members? Okay, thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Noting that the 2-year term on this application is not so much a trial as it is a temporary approval with the intent that that it be redeveloped sooner than later, I would support this application. It is an appropriate use. It's not, I don't believe it is truly an employment use, but it's appropriate to its context. And
Would that be with the planning commission?
with the temporary,
Is there a seconder?
Seconded, for temporary for 2 years.
temporary of
Yes.
2 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Were you here at the beginning of the session? Yeah. Are you in, you didn't raise your hand when I called the item.
I thought you said in interest of
Okay, we
agreeing with their.
have to reopen it.
Okay, so,
So we're done.
yeah,
Okay.
This is-
okay, well,
Yes,
you
right.
saw the rest of the activity. Okay, we're going to reopen it then. Sir, can you stand down? We'll hear from you then, sir, and then you'll have a chance to respond.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to have a conversation at all?
We haven't.
Pardon?
I don't think we're going to reach a resolution.
Okay, so then we'll hear from you, sir. Yeah, yeah.
You're striking him.
Yes, we're.
Motion.
Yes, the
We
motion
have a
didn't.
motion to,
the-
seeing as we did vote.
We're
on that,
coming
should
out,
probably-
we didn't vote on, we didn't,
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we've already voted, so it was to strike it.
okay, we hadn't, I didn't have it as we voted yet.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I recorded it formally.
Wasn't-
Okay, so, motion to reopen?
I'll move a motion to
I'll
reopen.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, sir, your name and address, please.
My name's Ryan Ishmael, 1260 DuPont Street, on behalf of Ventures Car Rental. We've noticed this company's moved into the area since December of last year, and to date is still functioning, even to the present, actually up until yesterday. We've understand that they are now, people are contacting them, and they're arranging Uber services to transport the clients or deliver the cars to their residents from this location. Two of the other major companies in the same industry have been turned down already to open in this area, as it's already saturated. As his application or his main use is for car rentals, we've applied directly for a car rental license, which we've been granted and operating. Not sure why he hasn't done so. Obviously, Licensing and Standards has turned down that application because they've said to the other two big companies they're not able to get the license as the area is saturated. So he's found a way to go around that to change the property. To me, too, I don't think it's fit to even operate a company out of that place. It's maybe 5 by 12 at the most, right? So we're opposed to that. It opens the door, if you change the zoning, it opens the door to all the other companies that were turned down to open in this area to then apply under this situation and under this change of zoning to operate their companies. So we're.
Sir, the situation there, you said you don't know that how he has been able to get around to get the license to open it. So if we grant the variance based on the Planning Act, then that he has to go to the licensing commission to get his license. We don't get involved there.
No, I understand that, but by you amending the zoning that he's applying for, will grant him to rent cars. He's not there to sell cars. They're there to rent cars, which isn't permitted in that area currently any further. There's no more issuing of licenses. So by changing this zoning to allow him to get a vehicle dealership, which car rentals falls under in another category, will allow him to operate a car rental company, which then again opens the door for other companies to come back into the area that have been turned down already, that applied before him to open this type of companies.
Can you just back up a bit? You said, I don't even see how he can operate a business out of there. I kind of missed what you were saying.
Well,
Something about a number of spots or?
Well, the parking lot's big enough. There's never been, we've been in the area for over 20 years. Enterprise, as he stated, has never been at that location. It used to be a gas station many, many years ago. It's been shut down probably, or deserted for about maybe 20 years as well. There's no waiting area for customers. It's one person can stand inside there, right? There's no waiting room. There's no sales office if they want to operate a dealership, as he says, potentially sell cars. There's no private offices, right? I don't think it's functionable.
But they're going to renovate the building, so assuming they're going to renovate it.
And that's assuming in 2 years that, you know, their plans are approved to renovate and change there, right? It's a growing residential area now. Whatever companies there are there. There's maybe 1 or 2 mechanic shops in the area. Most of them are moving out of the area because people are applying for residence in that area.
Well, if I understand correctly, this is for temporary use, and then they would be doing a self-storage facility there. They would have to apply for it, but that's their intent.
With a self-storage, sorry, what does that mean? What do you mean?
You know, where you rent storage space and you...
No, I don't see that. He's fully operational in Mississauga now. I don't see them changing. Once they get the permit to open this car rental company, if it's successful, you're not going to close the door and change your whole structure.
So just so you know, there was a report that was done by the Planning Department that indicated that they gave a background with respect to their comments on the site, and that if the committee were to consider approving the application for variance, that it be limited to a term of 2 years.
Right.
Because the planning department has spoken to the applicant with respect to future uses of the site. So if the committee were to approve it, planning has asked us to put that condition on.
Okay.
So that within, if they did not move on other applications for the site, they would no longer have, they'd either have to apply for another variance,
Right.
continue beyond 2 years, or they would not be able to operate if the committee were to approve it with a condition
Right.
recommended by planning.
I understand what you're saying. The property I don't even see big enough to be for a self-storage building.
Well, that's a
Right.
different, that's not what we're doing.
No, I understand that.
If that comes forward.
Right.
That would be, if they make an application.
Yeah.
To planning for something else, that would be subject to the whole application under the Planning Act and notice and
Agreed.
meetings and things like that. So the opportunity for that would be at another time. I'm just indicating to you the context of what the comments from the city's planning department
Right.
were.
Again, I mean, my thing is I would stress that if the zoning changes, again, it opens the opportunity for the 2 big companies that were in the area, that applied to open, would fall under this zoning, and they would apply under this the same way he is to open the car rental when they applied strictly for car rental permits, which is what he does now, functioning, right? So, again, I'm just opposed to it, and again, it opens the door for other companies to.
But they were not granted a license, correct?
Okay, but that's...
For car rentals?
Different-
They
That's
have
a
to go for
different.
a license.
there's-
No, but again, it opens the door for them to go this route because the zoning has been permitted to
This is
change.
not granting the license, though.
No, if you approve the zoning to be changed,
Yeah.
then he gets his license. If Licensing and Standards approves it, then the other companies could come in and do the same thing.
So the staff report says until August, I think August 6, 2021. It means that we would give a temporary, if the committee approve it, I don't know what the committee will do now.
Right.
But the committee decides to approve it, that would be a temporary approval, and he would have to make another application. At that time, you can make submission to that application to
Right.
say why he shouldn't get that space and why that you shouldn't permit it because of your observation within the 2 years.
I mean, again, the direct effect
Okay.
now is the interest
All
of
right,
the business.
so do you have any other
No,
specific
that's it.
points? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Can we have your comments in rebuttal to the issues that have been raised by this gentleman, please, and thank you.
here, I'm just putting up on the screen to give you a little bit of context. It's a screenshot of the city's mapping program. You see marked in red is, oh, thank you very much. What you see marked in red is the site that's before you today, 1286 DuPont. I marked an X on 1260 DuPont, and that is the property the gentleman was speaking of, and that is the home, and I believe, I assume rather, his business, which is Venture Car and Truck Rentals. So ultimately, my response is, I hear the gentleman's concerns. What I hear, though, are concerns about competition rather than a planning concern per se. The permission that's being brought for you today is for the same use, a car dealership, which includes car rentals, car leasing, car sales, and whether it be called a car dealership under 569-2013, or car sales and hire garage, it's the same use that's before you and the same use as the gentleman runs today. So ultimately, I think my previous discussion still stands. This, I can understand his concerns about competition, but in terms of the 4 tests and in terms of the appropriateness of the use under the Planning Act, I believe it is an entirely appropriate request to make. You've already touched upon the conditions put forward by planning and the context that this is a permission that's being requested temporarily while longer-term plans are developed for the site.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you. We're in committee.
Okay. Noting gentleman's concerns, this is not a residential area. If this were designated as residential, we would be seeing very different proposals for it. As far as the proposal we have in front of us, I noted before, I have difficulties with this going into an employment area, but on a temporary basis, it does fit the context. And it is a challenging site for a true employment use. Bylaw would seem to suggest, and I would agree, that the use proposed is more in the nature of a retail or service business than the use anticipated in an employment area, but on the temporary basis, this is a better use than sitting vacant. So I would continue to support the application, would move approval, including the 2-year limit.
I would agree with your comments, and although I'm sympathetic to the issues raised by the opposition, I don't believe they are related to what we look at. And I think giving this a temporary trial makes sense. Again, I mean, it looks quite derelict as a vacant property right now, and having some uses, I think, would be beneficial to the area.
I agree to the use. As the applicant has placed before us, we have the decision to make under the Planning Act. The staff report is very clear. As a matter of fact, this is one of the clearest ones I ever received. It says, be permitted for a term of 2 years expiring August 6, 2021. Means that after August 6, 2021, this use is not allowed unless you make an application. At that time, the party in place can oppose it based on what has happened. So I will support the application based on that staff report.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. for approval subject to the planning conditions in the staff conditions in the planning staff report. All in favor? The application's approved on that condition. Sir, did you hear me about filling out an form for getting a copy of the decision?
Yes.
Okay, so please make sure you do that. Thank you. Okay, just quickly, is anyone here for 711 Queen Street East yet?
No.
Okay. Anywhere here in interest? Are you the agent, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, anyone here in interest? Okay. Item number 10, 775 Indian Grove. Anyone here for that matter? Agent? Okay, anyone here in interest? No, okay, thank you. You weren't here when I called the items originally, that's why I'm calling, seeing if you were there. Yeah, so item number 7, 386 Roxton Road. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. 2 previous decisions of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property. Cold water hydraulic summary chart submitted by project engineer. A report from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District. And staff report from the Manager, Development Engineering, Engineering and Construction Services, Toronto and East York District. Can you give your name and address for the record, please?
Good morning, committee. My name is David Riley, SGL Planning, 1547 Bloor Street West.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need presentation or motion? Presentation or questions, sorry.
The variance, Mr. Riley, question, I want to move the question, Pierre.
Thank you.
The variance number 2, you're looking for your laneway suite to be 0.77 meters from the west rear lot line.
Yes.
The requirement by law is it should be 1.5 meters from the rear lot line.
Yes, so this is an existing garage on the property today. There was a previous variance granted for the construction of this garage, which permitted the 0.77 meter setback. And as you can see, the garage, which is at the top of the screen, in relation to the 2 existing garages next door, it's really in line and actually slightly more of a setback than the garage to the north. So the rationale being this is the established wall of the garages. So the laneway suite would be built essentially just replicating the existing footprint of the garage and right above.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So are you aware of the development engineering condition?
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think this proposal is appropriate for the area. The garages actually vary in size and some are quite large and peaked roof. So I don't think it would be out of character. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application as I feel it meets the 4 tests, including the engineering condition number 3 in the report dated March 20th. As I understand, 1 and 2 were satisfied already.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. All in favor? Your application is approved, subject to that condition.
Thank you very much.
Item number 8, 711 Queen Street East. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Can we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Mark Franklin. I'm the architect. 167 Richmond Street East is our address. I'm here on behalf of the owner.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or you'd like to proceed to questions?
No, are you aware of the planning conditions?
And we're completely satisfied with the conditions.
Any further questions, committee members?
No questions.
Okay, so we're in committee, discussion or motion?
I am prepared to move approval of the application, subject to the condition. In general, a patio in this area of Queen Street is entirely appropriate, and the trial period does address most of the concerns.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Your application is approved, subject to those conditions.
Thank you.
Item number 9, 321 Margarita Street. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a letter from the agent, including a list of neighboring properties with no objections, chart, summary of variances requested, and a list of comparable variances approved in the surrounding area, and 4 form letters in support signed by the owners or occupants of 315, 322, 328, and 338 Margarita Street. Can we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Sure. My name is Sean Freeman. I'm the architect, and my address is 62 Vermont Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or want to proceed to questions? Any questions then, committee members?
Mr. Freeman, your variance number 1, you want depth. Your depth is increasing by 2.81 meters. How will that stand with the rest of the neighborhood?
So, well, let me just put the site plan up, and I'll explain it. Oh, it's upside down.
We're pretty good at reading upside down, but you can flip it around. It would be helpful for everybody in the audience.
So in terms of the depth variance, why it occurred is really what's important. The footprint of the existing house is pretty much staying the way it is because the additions are really enclosing an already partially enclosed front porch, which moves the measurement of the depth from the existing main wall to the main wall of the front porch. Now, the front porch is already enclosed on 6 sides, including under the basement. So, and a lot of the houses along this street have partially enclosed porches or have porches that are very similar and sometimes closed in on the sides and having spaces underneath. In addition to that, why the depth is created is for the master bedroom addition at the back of the second floor. It was very important to the owner to have kind of a reading nook bay window, which projects slightly beyond the footprint of the ground floor that's existing. So that's just a special feature of the house that was very important to the new owner of the house, and she's discussed it with her neighbors. We were very careful about the placement of that, and we actually, on the site plan in the rear, you can see it's sort of skewed. So it does stick out farther on one corner than another, and that was an attempt to both lessen impact for any shadowing that might occur, and also to bring as much light in as possible for the rear of the house. So I hope I answered your question. I did show, there's a chart from Committee of Decisions previous that show that it's not totally out of context in terms of the depth that we're proposing.
Is there any privacy issues for the neighbor, and that you see how that part is skewed out at the back? Is there no privacy issues existing?
No, nobody was concerned. There's a small, are you asking about the balcony?
Yeah.
Nobody was concerned about it. It's a very, very small balcony. Really, nobody had a concern, and it's not meant to provide any sort of place where people would gather. It's really just to have a sliding door open to the bedroom and have like one chair there or some plants. It's very small. You can see that in the second floor plan. And I did, in the design of it, the edge of the balcony guard that faces to the south and to the east, a portion of it would be privacy screened, and then the portion that faces more her own garden would be open to allow light to come through.
That's my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Looking to the soft landscaping deficiency, like the space in front of the porch is shaded. I can't actually read the labels.
Do you want me to explain where the soft landscaping is, or?
Like, if you could walk me through what's going on with soft landscaping, yes.
Okay, I can just point to it on the site plan for you.
I mean, honestly, what is this?
So, I don't know if you can hear me, but the soft landscaping in that area is a sloped bank that will be planted with perennials that slopes down to allow the basement suite as much light as possible and as nice a view as possible. So in discussions with the planner early on in the project back in, I think, April or even March, she had concerns about a basement walkout at the front, like a concrete stair, the typical thing that you would actually see along Margaretta Street. It happens very, very frequently. So we redesigned it to allow a sloped planted bank there and change the entrance to the basement suite to be from the side of the house. So we basically, aside from the stair that gets you up to the ground floor and the little portion of walkway, all the rest of the front yard is soft landscaping. I don't think there would be a way to achieve any more, given the constraints of the site.
Did that cause the decrease in the front yard lot line setback? The front.
No, the front yard setback is where the stairs are don't affect the front yard setback. The setback's measured to where the front porch is enclosed,
Okay.
Which is a current location of a wall that's already there at the basement level of the porch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, committee members? Okay, thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I know these are a lot of variances, but in fact, I've been looking at the way to set up. I would truly mean it truly has met the Planning Act, and it is no detriment to the neighborhood, and so I would be prepared to support this application.
Motion?
All right, the motion to support the application is met the four tests.
Okay.
It's in agreement with the Planning Act.
Is there a seconder?
I will.
All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10, 75 Indian Grove. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. And can we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Darcy Dunal.
Okay,
Address is 55 Lavinia Avenue in Toronto.
thank you.
I'm an architect, and I'm representing the owner, Dr. Olivieri, who's the owner of the property and lives at 75 Indian Grove.
Okay, thank you, sir. Committee members, presentation or questions?
I don't think, no, presentation.
This one,
If you could just
yeah.
highlight which of these are existing. The actual modifications would be minimal.
Well, maybe it might be better if I highlighted what we're proposing is new, is there's a small extension of the vestibule on the ground floor.
I think what my colleague is asking is which of the variances are existing conditions?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right, excuse me. Yes, the existing, because of the old, it's an old house, is number 2, the side yard setback, number 4 is existing. The existing house is at that side yard. And so our veranda is an extension of that. And the others are, they're not existing, but minor in nature is what we're asking for.
Okay, any other questions, committee members? No other questions?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Committee.
I think that what's being proposed fits within the context of this area and the look of the homes. So I do believe that these variances are minor, meet the 4 tests, and I would move approval of the application.
Do I have a seconder?
Second it.
All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 12, 21 NELLES Avenue. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Can we have your name and address for the record, please,
Sure.
sir?
My name's David Barnard. I live at 926 Drysdale Crescent in Milton.
You're the agent for the owner? Oh, no, you're the owner.
Nope.
One of the
I'm the brother of the owner.
because you're not Patrick, you're David. Thank you.
Yes. My brother just happened to be on vacation.
So you're agent for one of the owners, okay. Committee members, do you need a presentation? You'd like to proceed to questions?
No, Madam Chair, this is very minor.
Okay.
Just the landscaping. The landscaping requirement is 50% and you're moving 34%.
Yes, currently they're actually way more than that. Pretty much the whole entire backyard is actually all pavers, so they're going to be taking up some of those pavers to better comply, but they still want a seating area in their backyard. So right now, there's a tree in the backyard, about 1.5 meters, so 5 feet to the fence, and the rest of it is all pavers. So to meet the green, so it never complied before, so we're trying to do better and actually comply.
So you're
Our original
improving the
application actually was 14% when we were going to leave the existing conditions, so now we're pulling up some of it to better comply, but still maintain it.
So you're improving the situation.
I would add that the planning report actually makes note of the landscaping and that this is very close to what's existing.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay. Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I am satisfied with the applicant's presentation, and I move that the application has met the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval of the application, including the planning report.
Planning report, there's not a...
Staff report.
There's no conditions.
No conditions.
No, this
There was
is
an
just
earlier
Yeah,
information.
April the 8th.
Okay, all right. Okay, all in favor? The application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 15, 38 Norway Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, and 7 form letters in support, signed by the owners and occupants of 30, 34, 36, 40, 42, 43 Norway Avenue, and 1 Haslett Avenue. Your name just for the record, please, sir.
Good morning, Madam Chair, member of committee. My name is David Smith, 401 Craven Road. I'm here to represent the homeowners at 38 Norway.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Committee members, do you need a presentation or any questions? Okay, questions? Any questions, committee members? It's number 15. So your existing square meters is 121.52, right? So the increase is...
About 13 square
13
meters.
square
Yeah, it's small. Proportionately from an FSI, because I figured he'd ask the existing square meters. It's completely in context with the neighborhood. I mean, we don't have city planning report, so you can see nothing was flagged. I have examples of stuff that was approved up to 1.1, so all things being equal, it's still a very small building.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Smith, variance number 4, deck. Will be located at 0, 0, 0 on the east side lot. That line. How will that fit into the neighborhood?
Well, it's actually the existing deck that's reframed in the same location. It's 0 to the property line because it's along the party wall property line. It's the same deck that's been there for about 10 years. Pretty much everybody in this neighborhood has a similar arrangement, so it's very consistent.
Okay.
Any other questions, panel members? Thank you, thank you. Discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, there are many additions in this neighborhood that vary in sizes, so this proposal is not out of context. I would also note that there are in the support letters that both adjacent neighbors are in support, so that includes the other half of the semi. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application as I feel it meets the 4 tests and fits within the context of the neighborhood.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Number 16, 325 Perth Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, a letter from the agent including context map, 6 photographs of neighboring properties showing precedents, 4 photographs showing elevation comparison with abutting neighbors, a staff report from the manager, development engineering and construction services, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence and support from 317 Perth Avenue. Good morning. Could we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, hello, committee. My name's Alan Ferlinger. My address is 116 Saul Street, Odessa, Ontario, and I'm the agent for the owners. As well as the information that you currently have, I also have some letters of support for the property that I'll give to you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, we'll share. Thank you. Okay, committee members, do you need a presentation?
No.
Any questions, committee members?
Mr. Feilinger, variance number 1, you're seeking that the auxiliary building contain a laneway suite to penetrate the angular plane. Why do you have to can't you move it to the side, or?
You're talking about the 45-degree angle?
Yes.
Requirement? The problem is the suite currently with the stairs gone is only 285 square feet upstairs. So it's very small to begin with.
Yeah.
As well, I wanted to keep some privacy for the owners of the house as well as the person that will be living above. So by enabling us to go the full height on the back, I can do more fenestration on the front. So then the view for the person in the suite is to the laneway, and then, you're not kind of sharing the view of the backyard. So I talked to the one individual in planning. He would prefer the 45-degree angle be, not followed versus setback between the house. Because, we could have went for a setback between the house. We're maintaining the 7.5 meters. We could have, reduced that to 6.5, did the angle, but he's like, no, I would prefer if you didn't do the setback and didn't abide the 45-degree angle.
And variance number 3, these are townhouses, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, you're looking for an excess of a depth of 5.2 meters. How does that align with the depth of the other townhouses?
Well, currently the existing house is 16.38 meters, and
16.38.
Yeah, so we're actually removing an existing old addition, and then we're going to add on to that. So most of the homes in the current area have already surpassed the 14 meters. So we would be approximately 2.5 meters longer than basically all the current neighbors that exist now, and you can see that in the cover letter.
Why do you have to go to 2.5 meters extra?
Well, we're looking for a certain amount of square footage. It's a family of 4. It's still barely a 2,000 square foot home when we're done, which is fairly modest. And we're still maintaining, even with the 19.2 meters, we're still maintaining a double rear yard setback. So the current rear yard setback requirement is 7.5, and we have over double that. So it's not like we're infringing on any of the setbacks. It's just, we just would like a little more space to go back. As well, we talked to a couple of the neighbors before and during the design process. Some of them were concerned about a 3rd story. So we could have easily went up higher and then not went back. But we try to work with our, the neighbors, and they, trying to get some common ground, and basically that was kind of what we've settled on.
Is there a window lookout on the depth and the back part?
Are there windows in the rear?
Yeah.
Yes, there are.
And will those not infringe on the privacy of the neighborhood, of their neighbors?
Well, we're also doing a privacy screen on the side of the deck. Which is, there's somewhat of a current one there now, so we're basically replacing that with something new. And this will actually increase the privacy for the neighbor, because now we're out further. So when they come out, you're not all aligned, which is common in a lot of new subdivisions. So you come out your deck and everybody's deck aligned, and you look down and you see it all, right? So now we're actually a little bit further out. It's staggered so that they have more privacy than they did before.
question.
There's other examples, if you look at the cover letter, of larger depths that have been approved, yeah.
That's fine. Okay, any other questions, committee members? Okay, thank you. Discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I'm going to move for mine for approval of this application in that, subject to the staff report, in that I'm satisfied that the privacy of the neighborhood is not compromised and the rest of the application has met the four tests under the Planning Act.
Okay. So you're, that's with the development engineering condition?
Yes.
Is there a seconder? Okay, all in favor? Okay, your application's approved, subject to the development engineering condition.
All right, thanks.
Okay, number 17, 33 Lanark Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondence in opposition from 162 Alameda Avenue and 136 Gloucester Grove. Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, my name is Sohrab Ibrahim, the owner and the architect.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions? Questions? Okay, any questions, committee members?
That's number 17. Tell me about the parking conditions.
I don't have any parking conditions.
You don't need any parking there?
No.
No, I
think
don't.
there's a report.
No, number 17.
Yeah.
17.
I think there was a report.
There's no parking variance.
Hmm?
There's no
Yeah, but there's a
variance.
report,
So is there other triplexes in the neighborhood?
They are around in the same street, Lanark.
Okay. Do you have any addresses?
It should be 57 or 59.
Thank you.
Basically, there are many rentals in the area.
Okay. Any other questions, committee members? No further questions? Okay, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, again, there are a lot of additions varying in size. I'm not sure that putting another unit in here is going to impact anything around. There are no parking variances. So I think that the proposal meets the four tests and fits within the context of the area, so I'd move approval.
Okay, is there a seconder?
I will.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, your application's approved.
Shared, thanks.
Number 18, 245 Windermere Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Correspondence in concern or interest from 34 Lavinia Avenue, and correspondence in opposition from the Swansea Area Ratepayers Association. Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Madam Chair, Michael Flynn, representing this application.
Thank you. Committee members, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions? Is there any amended variances here, Mr. Flynn?
Yes, Madam, there is. Planning Department requested a change to the total height, the wall height, and a restriction on the terrace, the roof terrace.
So could you please take us through the changes you're proposing to?
I have a copy of the waiver here with the amended notice.
Okay, if you could just,
I
if
can
you
give
could hand
that
that
to
in,
you.
take us through them, that would be
And I also
great.
have the drawings, if I can give those.
Thank you.
We have the drawings.
I think we have the new drawings with the staff report from the, are they changed again? Okay.
No, we have them. We just need you to amend the variances here. That's all.
Yes, they were attached to the staff report.
We just need you to amend it as per the note, as per the notice. That's it.
No, just read through the notice and tell us which ones have changed. Plans were attached to the the planning staff report, so we already have those as part of our package.
That's
Thank
true.
you very much, though.
You're welcome.
So if you could go through the variances that were on the public notice and tell us what is you're
Okay,
proposing to change.
number one stays the same. Number two is the total height reduced from 10.05 to 9.71, so a foot reduction, more or less.
Okay.
Number three is the exterior wall height. That's been reduced to 9.31, so again, just slightly more than a foot.
Okay.
Number six, again, is building height, and that's been reduced to 9.71.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee members, full presentation, or do you have questions? Okay, questions then, please.
Mr. Flynn, is there a flooding issue over in that neighborhood with the walls going up there?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, sir.
Is there a flooding issue? I have a note here from a flooding issue.
Flooding issue.
Well, this is the Swansea area, Swansea ratepayer area. So, flooding issues, I'm sorry.
That's his question.
There is a concern from the neighbor in the rear.
Yes.
To do with pooling of water, water not draining away. That becomes a building issue, not a planning issue.
Okay.
So it goes to the proper grading of the lot, and there are a number of solutions to that, such as French drains or culverts or all kinds of things to drain the water from that area. And we will be providing that in a building permit application.
So my concern was valid. It's just that it's not a planning issue. So you're going to take care of that.
We will take care of that.
Any other issues, committee member? Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Any other questions?
no other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the amendments because those were some of the questions I want to ask. I'm also satisfied that Mr. Flynn is going to take care of the flooding issue that I raised. And so the other part of the application as amended is truly minor and that it meet the four tests under the Planning Act. And so I would move for approval of the application as amended, as in accordance with the City of Toronto Act and zoning bylaws and the Planning Act.
I'll second that, yeah, with the conditions in the planning report,
Yes.
because there's still screening and building according to plans.
Okay. All in favor? Your application, amended application, is approved subject to the conditions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Number 20, 196 Shaw Street. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, correspondent from the agent confirming accuracy of the property survey, and a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. You have your name and address for, oh. Okay. Is there nobody here for this item? 196 Shaw Street? They were here when I called it. 196 Shaw? Okay. Number, did you guys need a break? Okay, we'll come back in a second. Number 22. Okay, 103 Condor Avenue. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, copy of revised site plan, floor plans and elevations, list of revised variances, email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto East York District, and correspondence in opposition from 4 Queen Victoria Street, and 7 signature petition in opposition signed by the owners and occupants of 95, 97, 99, 100, and 101 Condor Avenue. And are you in opposition?
I'm here to support.
In
So,
support?
since receipt of the,
We have your name and address for the record.
sorry, it's Alex Ilievsky, 41 Britain Street,
Okay,
representing designer and agent for the owners.
okay.
Um,
What are the revisions?
Pardon me?
Are there revisions to this application?
There were revisions submitted yesterday before the 3 p.m. deadline, submitted
what
to
are-
the planning
what are they?
technician. The revision pertained to the front yard setback to the second floor, the main wall on the second floor.
Okay, so variance number 2?
Variances number 1 and 2. Variance number 1, variance number 2.
We have it, so it's, variance number 1 is going to .76.
Correct.
132.16 meters squared, and variance number 2 going to, instead of 1.01 meters, 2.03 meters.
Correct. And this satisfied the objecting parties, and they are now in support.
Okay, those are the conditions. Thanks, Mr. Carlson. Okay, committee members, any questions? Okay. Did you want to speak? No, okay. Yeah, okay. And your name, just,
Paul Dowsett from 4 Victoria Street.
okay. All right, so committee members, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair. Looks like the applicant's been working with planning and has made some positive changes. I'd also like to note there are a lot of additions in this neighborhood, including the house on the right-hand side appeared to have an addition. I believe the gentleman that's here lives to the rear. I think you had submitted a letter, so it looks like that's all been resolved. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application as amended and as per the plans that we have, the revised plans as well, blue sheets.
Do you want to tie it to plans?
Yeah. It came kind of together, but it does say revised plans.
The variants are based on those revised plans.
So we don't.
Right.
Application as amended.
As amended, is that sufficient? You don't want to tie it to the plan? Okay. Okay, so that's my motion.
Is there a seconder?
I will.
Okay. All in favor? Your amended application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, 196 Shaw. Can we just, they won't, okay. Do you guys need a break?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
like to break.
Okay, we're just going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and deal with the contested items. So we'll be back at 11 o'clock. Okay, thank you. What?
Yeah.
Yes, I called it twice. Okay, we'll do that one, and then we're going to take 5 minutes. Okay. Number 20, 196 Shaw Street. I knew somebody was here when I called it
I
this
was
morning.
patiently
but I was-
watching all the other hearings. I didn't think
I
you would
was starting to
so
think
quickly.
I imagined it, which could have been possible. Okay, so the committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondence from the agent confirming accuracy of the property survey, and a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Your name for the record, please.
Yes, Edward Lee, the applicant.
Okay. Committee members, do you need a presentation, or is there questions?
You're aware of the planning report?
Yes, completely on board with the privacy fence requirements.
Okay. Any other questions, committee members? Okay. Thank you. Discussion or motion?
I think this is a wholly appropriate way of adding floor space, and the deck with the privacy screening is acceptable. So I would move approval of the application, as I do believe it meets
I'll
the floor test.
second that.
Okay. And with the planning?
With the planning condition for this.
Okay.
Yep.
All in favor? Your application, subject to those conditions, is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and start with item number 1. Thank you. We'll be back at 11.
I took the LSAT on Monday, so I'm trying to get.
Okay, we're back in session. Item number 1, 1103 Dufferin Street. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, project explanation from the agent, email correspondence from the planner, community planning, city planning, Toronto and East York District, staff report from the acting manager, traffic planning, transportation services, staff report from the manager, permits and enforcement, parking, transportation services, and correspondence in opposition for 1099 Dufferin Street. Is the opposition still here?
No, they are not.
There. Okay.
I do also have a letter of support from the counselor we received this morning.
So can we firstly have your name and address for the record, please?
Samantha Dunlop, 777 Richmond Street West.
And you're the agent?
Yes.
So you were able to satisfy the concerns of the...
Yes, we were.
Thank you. Okay. Panel members, do you need a presentation, or would you like to proceed with questions? Okay, then any questions?
The transportation, they're talking about restoring the curb cut.
Yep.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just, because we've got a lot of stuff.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, they don't object, but you'll have to restore the obsolete curb cut at no cost to the
Correct.
city. Okay, so you won't have that driveway that's
Yep.
there now.
And also the spaces off-site.
Yeah, are you making arrangements for off-site parking?
So we do support what the counselor has wrote. We virtually are unable to do that. I mean, we are in close proximity to a subway station. There's bus routes along Dufferin Street. There's over 200 permit parking spaces available within the area that the subject property is within. Through the site plan application process, they looked into if it was feasible to provide these off-site, and unfortunately, there was no options for us to find anything. So we do feel that it is sufficient to use the permit parking for any of the parking spaces that may be required.
Because there is a second report that's asking you to find them within 300 meters, right?
Yes, we did see that. I know the counselor's noted in her letter as well. It was something that had been previously looked into, but there virtually is nothing within 300 meters.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that far yet. Okay, I see it now.
So we have 16 spaces. They're located in the rear yard. I can put up the site plan for you, but we're actually proposing. So in the rear yard, one of the little accessory buildings is going to have 14 parking spaces. So it's at a rate of 1.75 per unit in the building, which is in excess of what the bylaw requirements are.
What is the current depth of the building? You're moving your depth by 10 meters behind.
Yes, so the way that the depth is measured in the bylaw is from the required front yard setback, which we're actually significantly pushed behind that. So the building length on the ground level is only 21.96 meters. We have it set back from the front yard because there is a window well, and through the site plan application and consultation with city staff, it was asked to be pushed back in order to provide privacy into the front window well. This lot is also, it's extremely longer than all the other lots. We're able to provide in excess of the requirements for the front and rear yards with significant amounts of open space.
Because of the length of this lot, you couldn't make any parking available there?
That was what we have discussed. We've looked into it of trying to accommodate it somewhere in the rear yard. Based on this area, it's so transit accessible that it was the decision that the rear yard is better used as an open space, amenity space for these tenants, rather than parking, which can cause concerns of neighbors on the opposite side of headlights going into their rear yards, the sound of cars. Dufferin's not the easiest street to reverse out of if there was to be a driveway, and it was looked at in order to accommodate one, maybe two spaces. And ultimately, the decision was it was a better design. It provided more amenity to the tenants to not include any parking.
As far as any, like, visitors, are there any parking? I couldn't find them, but are there green pea lots nearby?
Yes, so I also have another slide. So just north of Bloor, within less than 400 meters, there are 2 green pea parking lots that are easily accessible for visitors to go use as needed whenever they are visiting.
And if it, like I'm assuming your target market are people that are going to use transit?
Correct.
Okay, but assuming a tenant has a car, is there an option for permit parking anywhere in the neighborhood?
Yes, so we're within the 3G parking permit area. Based on discussions with city staff, there's over 200 spaces available.
Okay.
So there is an excess of, if even 50% of the tenants in here, we needed 4 spaces, there is more than enough available.
All right.
So where's parking area 3H on the map?
I believe that's on the other side of Dufferin Street, so right across from where we are, which the site is not within, but the site is in close proximity. And again, as the councilors noted, there is an abundance of available spaces.
Thank you. Any other questions, panel members? Thank you. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Madam Chair, I'm quite leery of the application that doesn't have that parking at least within the 300 meters zone. I'm kind of just not too happy with this application because of my number one concern is a parking issue. I don't know what the response could be in view of dealing with, in view of the applicants finding something else for the people who uses the property. I don't know, I have mixed feelings, mixed views about this application.
Well, I'm of the opinion that it's, it's a very dense area as it stands. So in terms of, to the apartment building, I don't think is out of context. And it is on a major arterial road, which has transit going up and down it. The city's encouraging transit use, so I don't see a problem with this building.
Well, I do, on balance, have to agree with that, and I think that zero parking is appropriate to the context. I would remind the committee of the state of the Dufferin bus.
Yeah,
That
well,
the transit service is virtually unusable. At the same time, I can't put myself in a position of saying that the transit is overcrowded, so let's support more automobile use.
well, I know the better way can be challenging at times, but they're also encouraging cycling, which they have the bike spots for. I mean, I think the reality is if you're choosing to live in a, closer to the southern end of the city, there is less and less and less parking available, and there's more and more of a movement toward transit and cycling.
I think the reality is that to enforce greater compliance with the bylaw would be to force a development form that is less in context. So I think this does meet the four tests.
I mean, I think that in terms of, from a planning perspective, the building makes sense for, that the housing's appropriate. So I would be prepared to move a motion to approve the application, including the staff report, the July 11th one for the restoration of the obsolete curb cut.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any dissent, Mr. Russell?
Dissent, yes, Russell with dissent.
Okay, your application's approved with transportation condition from the July 11th report.
The curb cut?
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, item number 2, 102 Heath Street. Committee has before it, so those in opposition, please come sit to the left here. Committee has before a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, including a previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment on 104 Heath Street, email correspondence from the applicant regarding parking permit availability, commenting agency reports from traffic planning technologist, traffic planning transportation services, Toronto and East York District, correspondence in opposition from 5 Rose Park Crescent, 96 Heath Street East, 94 Heath Street East, 98 Heath Street East, 100 Heath Street East, another from 100 Heath Street, 3 from 100 Heath Street East, 104 Heath Street East, 110 Heath Street East, and the Moore Park Residents Association. And can I have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Kurt Franklin. I'm a planner with Weston Consulting. Address is 201 Millway Avenue in the city of Vaughan.
Okay. So you've had an opportunity to have a discussion. Has there been any resolution of any issues?
I'm pleased to say that we have reached an agreement with all of the residents that are in attendance today, including the head of the Residents Association. We would like to make a change to one of the variances to accommodate their concerns. If you would like, I will read that into the record right now.
Which variance number?
It's variance number 1 under bylaw 438-86. So it's section 6.3, part 2, 3F1. And I have this, I can leave a copy of this with you if you'd like.
You can just let us know what the change is.
Sure. So right now, the variance would read, the 3-story converted dwelling will be 0.3 meters from the west side lot line for the existing building and the ground floor of the extension. The west side yard setback for the second and third floor extension will be 0.7 meters.
You back up a second.
No, I'm reading for what we have just worked out with the residents.
So you're adding words?
We're adding words to that. So really what we're doing, the purpose of this is we have an existing 0.3 meter setback.
Okay, can you just, I lost you at for the
Absolutely, which is why I'll gladly leave this with you.
Hand it in, but just read it to us.
My apologies. So we were adding language. Just go back to it here. After we have right here, the language right now says 0.3 meters from the west side lot line, and then we are adding for the existing building and the ground floor of the extension, period. The west side yard setback, for the second and third floor extension will be 0.7 meters. So So we're stepping back the second to the third floor extension beyond the line of the existing building to provide more light.
For purposes of that, then you wouldn't, you only really then need a variance for the,
Technically, we can do it just with the .3.
ground floor extension, so that second part really isn't necessary. Because it's not a variance anymore.
No, it's not. It's more like a zoning bylaw.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would suggest that the same thing would be accomplished, and more appropriately, by wording this as a condition on variance, on the variance as written, and tying to plans.
Should the committee, decide to approve it.
Yep, that works for us.
Okay. The current plans don't reflect it, though, because it's going to change.
Updated plans would be needed, but.
Do we have well, we don't have updated plans.
No, this is on the fly. We're going to go back now and work with the residents on
It would
that.
have to be a condition.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. So, just a question before we proceed. So, as stated, did that address the concerns of the individuals here? Just a yes or no at this point is fine?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so based on that submission, does the committee want a full do we require a full presentation? Do you need a full presentation, or are you prepared for the committee just to ask questions? We will hear from you if you'd like to state anything, or is it just you just want to?
We'll just say something at the end.
Okay. So, any questions, committee members, at this time?
I'm just want to deal with the desirability of the project within the neighborhood. I guess the concern. How many other existing facilities in the neighborhood present are looking like yours?
Specifically, the house immediately to the east of us, 104 Heath Street. The variances on building height, on density are almost exactly the same. We're 0.2 meters taller than their variance. Our densities are within 0.007. Just for the committee's information as well, we have agreed to meet with the residents on the design of the front facade of the building to achieve a more complementary and front of it so that everybody agrees will fit better into the neighborhood.
Question for you. Given the amendment that you're proposing,
Yes.
do you also not need to make an amendment to variance number 6?
That's exactly what I thought. We went back to the notes and we talked to the architect as well. If you look at the zoning review that was done, that variance only refers to the front. It's funny wording. I don't quite get why it's worded the way it is, but it only has to do with the front bay window, which on the second floor. And the way that it presents. It actually doesn't affect the second floor side yard the way that's written according to the zoning review.
Okay, because
I agree. I had exactly the same question when we were doing this.
because it refers to the west side lot line.
I agree. And when you go to the zoning review, they have a very specific note. And they say that, make sure I got the right one here. This is only applicable for the portion of new main walls at the front of the second floor.
Then why does it say west side lot?
I do not know, but that's the way they've written it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So, okay, this was a waiver though, so,
True, but we have a zoning bylaw notice on here and zoning reviewed it. And the red line zoning review was submitted with the materials.
yeah, I'm just trying to ensure that we have accuracy here, given the fact that you've had discussions and that, it's variance number 6 to 569, 2013. It speaks to the west side lot line. So I guess, so this is a front second story addition. So because it is written this way, and in the spirit of what you've said here, out of an abundance of caution to respect what's been said and on a plain reading, would you agree to change this to 0.7 instead of 0.5 as stated?
No, I can't, because we're only talking about the extension, and there's a second story. If I do that on that one, it would affect the existing building as well.
No, because it says front second story addition, the description.
Yeah, but that's just the addition of a bay window. There is a second story there.
So.
That's what I'm concerned about.
So, okay, so Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer would be more specific, we say to the bay, measured to the bay window? Bay window?
I think it's almost redundant, because if we have a 0.3 for the existing building, then that's what it would be. And it would be built in a different way and constructed at
Do you
0.5.
feel you can remove variance number 6?
I'm stuck here the same way that you're thinking here because of this, so I'm open to any discussion on this.
We'll just leave it alone then.
Yeah. Like if there is, an issue does come up, the 0.3, in my humble opinion, though I'm no lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, would be more restrictive. There's a jog there at the front. Oh, I see what you're saying. So much like you suggested with the second and third floor, Madam Chair, I think it becomes redundant because we've already established 0.3.
I think we'll leave it, if satisfied with it. I'm just on the basis of the conversation that happened, I wanted to ensure that we were being consistent across the variances that are stated here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, any members? Now you're indicating, would you like to put your name and address on the record that you're supporting? Please and thank you.
My name is Jeremy Gowan, and I am with the Moore Park Residents Association, and I live at 238 Rose Park Drive in Toronto.
Okay. So, Mr. Gowan, you're aware that the discussions with respect to the facade are something that's wouldn't be part of the committee's consideration?
Yes.
Okay. But on the basis of the submissions, with the suggested amendment made to variance number 1 to 43886, those people that had come in opposition today would be satisfied with that amendment?
Dorothy Greenaway is the one who is most affected by this, and this is why we have been trying to get this amendment in. We don't like the facade, but I recognize that's an issue that we have to deal with quite separately.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I believe it was suggested that we put this as a condition rather than changing the variance.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
We can't tie it to plans, though, because we don't
No.
have them. All right, thank you very much, sir. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? We're in committee, discussion or motion? Excuse me, or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm glad that the applicant and the neighbors and the residents association were able to work something out. Number 104 has, based on what I read, has almost the identical variances. There are other homes in the area that are also fairly similar. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application, including a condition that reads that the 0.3 meters from the west side lot line would be for the existing building and the ground floor of the extension only. Does that work, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer? You want me to include? And that the west side yard setback for the second and third floor extension will be 0.7 meters. Okay.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Russell? Okay, all in favor of the amended application? Okay, the application as amended is approved. Oh,
No, it's not amended.
no, it's on condition. I'm sorry, my error. The application is approved on condition. Thank you. Item number 4, 475 Roxton Road. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District. Correspondence in support from 541 Roxton Road. Correspondence in opposition from 471 Roxton Road, 477 Roxton, and 477 Roxton Road. Could we, okay, so could we have your name and address for the record, please?
Hi there. I'm Natalie Talib. I'm the architect representing Naseem Saluji, the homeowner. Naseem is here as well.
Are you both speaking?
Yes, we're both speaking.
And are we still, yeah, we just usually have one speaker.
Oh, okay.
Does he have something to add that you're not going to speak to?
No, I'll add what he wanted to add. I thought it would be nice if it just came direct from the homeowner.
Well, it's your choice. Have you had an opportunity to have any discussions? Has there any resolution been reached?
Unfortunately, the neighbor is not here. She did appoint counsel that was not able to speak to, I guess, any suggestions that we made.
Okay, so can we have your presentation then, please?
Sure, of course. Naseem is the homeowner of 475 Roxton. They're a young couple looking to invest and move into the city. Naseem purchased this property after he saw his close friend buy a property nearby, and he built a rear addition to it, and he fell in love with his house. So when he saw a property that came up on the same street, he jumped for it. The proposed addition that we're planning on the rear end of the 475 Roxton intends to match what 541 Roxton did, and to stay in keeping with the city neighborhood characteristics. So we referenced 541 Roxton from day one, and what was approved at 541 Roxton, and we worked with the city council. We went through 3 rounds to make sure that the city council gave us their support on it before we wanted to move ahead.
Planning staff?
Sorry, the planning staff, city planning. So we worked with them on about 3 rounds or so, got their support, made changes to our addition, and then decided to move forward. We approached the neighborhoods. We discussed with them kind of what our plans are. And that's when we put in our application. We wanted to make sure that we had their support on it. Again, our application aims to stay in keeping with what's been happening in the neighborhood. We followed 541 Roxton as much as we can, and we're quite surprised that someone has opposed it. And Naseem and his fiance are looking forward. They are living in a rental right now, and they are looking forward to move into their house.
Okay, so on the basis of the variances you're requesting, you just want to point to 541 Roxton?
Sure, we could do that.
No, I'm asking you. You've just pointed out what's the in terms of the variances being applied for. I have no idea what 541.
What 541 got approved for?
Yeah,
so 541 got approved for an extension, and they are about 16.9, about 17 meters deep. So if we go through, let's say, the variances. So for item number 1, this one doesn't really apply because our property is a semi-detached, while 541 was a detached. Mind you, our property is a bit large, so variance number 1 doesn't apply. Variance number 2, in terms of the maximum permitted depth, that we referenced 541 Roxton. Item number 3.
How much was it again?
What would-
17 something?
Yeah, what's variance number 2 going to be?
So we have our variance at 18.33.
But the other, but Roxton.
17 something.
And it's a detached house, right?
So, yeah, so
Requirements are
Roxton.
different under the
Yeah.
bylaw then.
So Roxton was at
Are you
16.99.
revising any variances, or you're just pointing to how you're comparing it to the other property on Roxton, correct? Okay,
There's no revisions.
okay. So the depth variance, though, for a detached home, the bylaw is 17 meters.
Mm-hmm.
This is a townhouse, so it's a different, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so our variance is at 18.33 that we're requesting. And that's for the ground floor. The second floor gets pushed back. Variance number 3 calls for that we're adding the floor space index by 0.6. And our floor space index will be 1.14. We worked with planner to reduce it to, she said that we needed to reduce it to less than 1.15. So we worked on that. 541 Roxton got approved for 1.1. So
You're above.
Yeah, above that. You keep telling us 541 and 5, and you're telling 541 you've gone beyond 541.
yeah, so the reason why 541, I'll just give you a little bit as to why we had to go a little bit more than 541. 541 is a narrower lot. Ours is just slightly larger, which is causing this increase a little bit in the floor space index. Why? Because our lot is a little bit wider. It allows us to have the bedrooms. It doesn't really give us additional space for additional bedrooms, but it just allows us to have the layout similar to 541. So our bedrooms are just slightly larger.
The design of 541, is that what this is?
What's that?
Are you trying to duplicate?
We are duplicating 541.
But it's beyond 541, you're not duplicating.
Okay, so this variance number 4 then, or this, what's this? But 541 though is a detached home, is that what you said?
Yes.
This is a townhome,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is a townhome, and 541 was a detached, but we are in keeping with what 541 did.
Okay, but they're
So-
two different, one's a townhouse, one's a detached home.
Yes, they are.
Do you have examples of any townhouses with the depth you're requesting, or any other properties? with
So
the
we
depth
do.
and FSI that you're requesting in the?
So we have some images of houses along the laneway that we took. We have some images of how they go up 3 stories. Can I just?
Sure, please do. Okay, and we're about 6 minutes, so we're going to have to.
So, for example,
If you can flip it, please. Just half turn the other way, so we can see it. Thank you.
So, as you can see here, for example, this is another row of townhouse that goes up 3 stories. This is all along the same laneway that 475 Roxton.
And what are the depths of those properties?
Unfortunately, I do not have those depths, but I have these images that kind of show that they go up to the 3 stories, and I'll have images of basically what.
So is that an end unit of a townhouse there?
Yeah. That's it. That's the end unit. So we looked around on that street, and we looked at kind of what's been happening in the neighborhood, and our addition is at the rear, and it pretty much replicates what's happening along that street. You know, this is 541 Roxton that we're looking at. I know it's a detached, and ours is a semi, and I reference it, but if you can imagine, our property would be up against this. They're all narrow in terms of size. They're all kind of in terms of the same size, but are being developed along that street. So
Any other townhouses that have a depth that you're requesting?
I don't necessarily have what this property's depth is, but maybe we could see. But I know that when we spoke with the city planners, they said that we would be okay. Anything less than 19 meters was critical for the city planning team. So we put that, it worked out for our bedrooms to be at 18.3.
And the second and third stories will be at 16.6, is that correct?
Shifted those back at 16.3.
Okay.
8 minutes, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
I understand. Thank you. Any other questions of the person this time? Okay, can we hear, thank you. We'll hear from the individual in opposition, and then we can hear back from you. Thank you very much. Can we have your name and address and who you...
My name is Sylvain Rouleau, and my address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 4100, and I'm counsel for the owner at 477 Roxton Road.
Sir, if you could go ahead, please.
And just to give you a bit of context, 477 Roxton Road is attached to 475. It is the middle of a row house, a three-house row house. And they are, I submit, the ones who are going to be most affected by this development. And these are narrow properties, with my client's property being only 3.96 meters in width. So any effect with a zero setback does create a great effect on them, as it creates a wall right beside their property. The property in question is slightly wider, with 5.28 meters in width, so there's a little bit more room to play. But my client is very affected by anything going up left and right of them, as that's the only access to sunlight that they have. That's the only access to visibility. My client has really two forms of concern. The first one is with regards to the scope, scale, and extent of the variances, and the other one is with regards to the sufficiency of the variances that have been requested. So with regard to the scope, scale, and extent, these variances would allow a huge massing. It essentially creates a triplex as a part of a row house. They're asking for 2 secondary suites plus a main, which is essentially a third secondary suite, or a third suite. It's the creation of a triplex on the end of a row house by greatly massing on the property itself. This would create a wall. As you've noted, the length of it is longer than the property in question, and my client's property ends with a sunroom at the back. What has been identified in the maps as a vinyl one-story addition is in fact a sunroom, which I can provide you with a picture if you would like. And this sunroom would now be This is the rear of my client's property on my right, with the proposed development property on the left. That sunroom has windows on top, windows everywhere around it. Proposed development would go up to 3 stories, approximately at the end of my client's sunroom, with a 2-story deck sitting right beside it, being able to look directly down into the home, essentially, with a wall of 3 stories going up right beside it. As you can tell, this would greatly affect southern exposure is on the left side. That's where the sun comes from. That's what would be affected by creating this large wall right beside my client's property. They're seeking nearly 2 times the permitted GFA on an end of a row house. As the committee has noted, this is a row house as opposed to 541, which is a detached home and does have setbacks. They're seeking for 0 setbacks along my client's property, which is a significant difference between 541 and the property in question. It is our submission that the variances are simply too big and of too great effect, and they don't meet the 4 tests. With regards to the second category of concerns that my client has, it's with regards to the sufficiency of the proposed variances. City of Toronto recently approved zoning bylaw amendment 549/2019, which amended the zoning bylaw and included section 150.10.40.40, which requires that the interior floor area of a secondary suite or all secondary suites where more than one is permitted must be no more than 45% of the interior floor area of the dwelling unit within which it is located. Though it's hard to calculate the dimensions, the interior floor area by definition includes all living space, including basements in this case, which would not be calculated in a GFA calculation. In this case, from our review of the plans, it appears that the 2 secondary suites for the basement and the first story constitute more than 45% of the total interior floor area. There's no variance sought to that effect, and we do believe that's a variance that should be obtained. Furthermore, from the drawings, my client has concerns with regards to the sufficiency of the drawings. I've already raised to your attention that the 1-story vinyl that has been put on the drawings is, in fact, as you can see, a sunroom that is mostly windows rather than vinyl. It's not accurately reflected for review of the plans, and it would have been difficult to identify any effect the variances may have on something such as this. Furthermore, it's unclear from the plans whether or not the garage will be moved. Through discussions with my friends, they've indicated it's not going to move. However, on the plans, the scope of work does indicate that it will be relocated. So my client has a number of concerns with regards to the sufficiency of the plans. Subject to any questions the committee may have, those are my brief submissions today.
Do you know what the depth of your client's property is to the back of their sunroom?
The depth of my client, I believe that would appear on the plans that were submitted. Though it's not exact, if the committee wants to look at Plan A01, which have been submitted, you can see the end of the 1-story vinyl.
Yeah.
So it's about in line with where the 3rd-story addition would end and where the 2-story deck, the 2nd-story deck would start. That distance, I'm not certain what distance that would be. (16.81 meters).
Any other questions? Okay.
The applicant provided information on another building that they were using to justify the requirements that they're seeking here. What is your views on those?
One of the buildings, at least that I've seen, showed multiple rows at 3 stories, which to me is a different picture. So everybody has the same height. There's no height issue with a deck being able to peer into a neighboring home. I've not seen any matters that are comparable to this one that I've been able to see, though I've not seen those before today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So if you'd like to respond to the issues that have been raised, please.
Do you mind if I respond?
It should be the person who was speaking before, but she gave evidence in chief, so I would have preferred to have, you can't raise any new issues. You can only respond to the issues that have been raised by the person in opposition. That's the rule for everybody, so just so you know. So you are Mr. Salogi?
Salogi, yeah.
Salogi, sorry. Okay. So who?
On the first question on the extent of the variances, the primary issue is the sunroom that the neighbor would like to keep light flowing into. She lives in Toronto about 4 months of the year, and she likes when she's sitting outside to be able to get the sun into her sunroom. So What we did was we performed a light study, and over the course of summer, spring, and winter, we assessed how much light would start flowing into her sunroom. And we noticed that in the summer and spring, so in the summer her light is unencumbered. In the spring, things are actually looking pretty good, so the majority of light comes in, but in the winter there is some disruption of light. What I will say on that point is, irrespective of whether this is the project that my fiance and I are conducting or any other project, if you look at the neighbors on either side, it's very much in keeping with the neighborhood for people to be extending their homes backwards. So even if this project, even if we were to be denied, the next person to come in to renovate this home would also be putting an extension on the home. This home is far less, its depth is far less than the other homes in the area, and as a result there would always be some blockage into the sunroom. I think the unfortunate thing about it is that the neighbor has chosen to, as opposed to building a room with a roof, as most of the houses have, she's built a room with a glass roof. And we're happy to work with her in terms of kind of, working to manage things as best as possible. But clearly she didn't come today and wasn't interested in having the conversation. But happy to work through it with her. I think on the sufficiency variances. There was a question about the GFA ratio and whether this was in alignment with the most recent zoning, the most recent amendments to the law. One thing we did do was run all of our plans by the city examiner, who did approve what we were doing. We also had multiple rounds of iterations in conversation, as Natalie mentioned, with May Wang, the city planner. And May also approved what we were doing, as she believed that it was in keeping with what was happening in the neighborhood, and it fit the city's broader objective to ensure that there was some continued development. Linked to this point, the house is in quite terrible condition, and so irrespective of whether it's me or somebody else, this renovation of some sort is going to continue. And so ultimately it's just a question of, can we do this and manage this in a way that makes the neighbor happy? On that point, I did approach the neighbor. We sat down for tea. We had a number of conversations over the past period of time. I would have loved it if she came today to speak on her behalf, or if she wanted to oppose. What I noticed was that the notice came out last night, and she came with counsel today. I think the reason that she is opposing in the manner that she is because ultimately it's not a question of whether I can scale or adjust or make things work in a manner that works for her. I think it's that she does not want any sort of project to go forward, and at least from my perspective and through the conversations we've had with May and the City Planning Committee, that would go against the city's objectives. And just from my own personal perspective, as Natalie mentioned, as I'm getting married 1 month from today, my fiance and I are living in a rental. We need to be out of the rental within the next few months. Our goal, we purchased the property last October. We've been through multiple rounds of iterations with the city to get there. So ultimately, it's just about allowing us to move forward. And so I would appreciate it if you could take that into consideration. One thing I will add in closing is that, if there's some conditional approval today, we'd be happy to sit down with Anne Marie and work to make this as positive an experience for her as possible. So very much open to conversation subsequent to this. The only reason that we push for things today is that if we are pushed off today, we are again out of our rental, and the project ultimately doesn't move forward for a long time, and we're not able to move into our home.
Could you tell me, I do see additions. Do any of these other townhouses, do they have like 3 units? Because you're proposing basically 3 units. I think you're going to live in one, but you're only allowed 1 extra. So you're asking for a variance to the bylaw for that, which...
So one of them is 374 Shaw Street. So if you want to take a look at this one here. So this one is immediately behind through the back alley. As you can see, it's an end of a row. And as you can see, there are 3 units in that building. And that one also has extended back beyond where the neighbors went. So that is a good precedent to use. So that's the row house. Of course, there's the precedent of my friend, which is the one, his project inspired me to purchase in the area. He, although he's not an end of a row, has also gone far above his neighbors and gone beyond. I think the issue is that
What number is this on Shaw, sorry?
374 Shaw Street. Yeah.
Do you know what the size of these units is in comparison to the ones you're proposing?
Visually, they look larger. I don't know, but they're visually looking larger.
You're saying this is right behind?
It's basically right behind. It's the same laneway and on the same street. So within the same city block.
74? Because the numbers straight behind are not.
I might be wrong on the exact number. It might be 600 then.
74?
I can get a look. I can get the number for you.
Well, it's a long way laneway.
Yeah, it's the same laneway. I can get the number for you if we.
And are there any other ones, or is that the only one?
There are a number of others
Like
in the broader area. Yes, if you look at that's 541 there. There are a number of other houses in the area. I just looked specifically in the one city block on Roxton Street. That's the one triplex that I saw. There are many in the broader area. If you were to go along Shaw Street, the next street, or if you were to go along the other laneways, there would be a number of other ones. But I tried to look for a couple of precedents that were within the same block, within the same laneway, but between the 2 sets of streets, between Bloor and Harvard, which is where this is being worked on.
Any questions, panel members? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in committee, discussion or motion?
Just a discussion. First thing I want to say is that the neighbor who didn't appear today did appear through their council. That's why they hired a council. So that shouldn't be a subject that this committee should delve into. I am, again, with this application, I'm not satisfied with the sufficiency of the massing of the application. I think this needs to be some more work. There's a lot more work to be done between the applicant and the neighbors. So I don't know. I'm mixed with this application. That's my submission.
I'm somewhat conflicted. I mean, in terms of additions, there are additions in the area, lots of with decks. From a numbers perspective, some of the variances are excessive. I guess if you add in the fact that they're asking for an extra unit that's not permitted, I mean, if one unit were removed, perhaps there could be some step backs that would be more amenable to the neighbor. But it looks like when council presented that picture that the one side already has an addition going quite far back. So this is a bit of a tough one, and I am a little bit conflicted on this one.
I hear the conflict. I see that an effort has been made to create something suitable, but I see a set of variances that are physically pushing the bounds of what is appropriate here and a purpose that is ultimately outside the bylaw. So I'm going to have to come down against this. As the massing is excessive
given its purpose. Looked at in context, this is not meeting the test for being minor in nature or for being within the purpose of the bylaw.
I'm going to move for refusal of this application in that it has failed the 4 tests required under the Planning Act. It's not in accordance with City of Toronto zoning bylaw.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Your application's refused. Item number 11, 363 Dovercourt Road. Committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, east and west elevation renderings, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence in opposition from 365 Dovercourt Road. We have your name and address for the record.
Andrew Trotter, 81 St. Clarence Avenue, agent designer. So we had a
So you're in opposition, sir? Or you've,
yeah, we've come to an agreement.
okay?
Okay.
Is it resulting in any changes to the application that's before us, Mr. Trotter?
The one variance that would change would be the 2.32 meter setback, item number
One? Under 4.
1. Yes. Oh, no.
Under 43886.
What did I do with that? Oh, yeah. No, item number 1, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what's that?
That would change to 5.5 meters.
5.5 meters.
Yeah.
Good.
And the there'd be 3 conditions that we worked out with the neighbor, that the second level deck would be, and it just works out to it mathematically with that setback, it works out to 17.4 meters squared. And the third level deck would be reduced to 8 square meters with a 6-foot high opaque privacy wall around it. 8 square meters on the third floor with a 6-foot high privacy screen, opaque. I have it drawn actually.
Size of platform variance.
Oh, so it would be 1.83 meters.
I don't know.
But there's no size of platform variance.
We usually go with 1.5.
1.5 you
The
get.
screening.
Yeah.
That's what's in the planning report as well.
Right, okay.
Is that acceptable?
1.5.
That's the standard.
Like the city's.
Because there are also height restrictions for the screening.
Okay.
So we'll just go with what's in.
Yeah, that's okay.
So the only thing you're changing is, or you want added in, is then the size of the decks, is that right?
Yeah, the size of the deck,
So
yeah.
You said 17 square meters the second, and 8 the third?
17.4 for the level 2 deck.
Okay, and
8 meters squared for the level 3 deck.
Okay. It would be north and south edges as per the staff report.
Yeah, that's the staff condition.
So that would stay the same, right? The Yeah.
Okay. Okay, based on that discussion, any questions, panel members?
No.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Russell?
No.
Okay, so we'll go into committee. Discussion or motion, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that it's really nice that something was worked out with the neighbor in terms of the proposal. I think it fits in the context of the neighborhood. There are a lot of additions varying in sizes, so I would move approval of the application.
As amended. Did you? Sorry. Apologize, yes. Sir, will come out of committee. My error, sorry. Can we have your name and address, please?
Thank you. My name is Adrian Nicola. I'm at 365 Dovercourt Road, and I'm attached to the proposed property.
And based on the revisions that have been suggested, you would your objection would be satisfied based on those?
My objection would be satisfied. I would like to note that we would like the fencing to be opaque so that
Yeah,
they
it's in
cannot
the
see.
report.
Thank you very much.
1.5, 1.6.
Agreeing with the number that you provided, the 1.5, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I?
Yes.
Okay, so it's okay. So through you, Madam Chair, I would move approval of the application for the reasons stated before, including the condition in the planning.
As amended.
There is no, the revised application, so you're changing variance number 1 under 43886 to 5.5 meters, then including the condition regarding 1.5 meters of opaque screening on both decks, second and third floor, opaque screening on the north and south edges, and then an additional condition that the second floor deck be limited to 17.4 square meters and the third floor deck be limited to 8 square meters.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
A second.
All in favor? Your amended application with those conditions is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 13 and 14, 811 and 813 Broadview Avenue, please. So the committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondent from Jen Timstra sent to 815A, 1815B, 817 Broadview Avenue, along with a number of addresses on Pretoria Avenue. Email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto East York District, Acting Coordinator, Right-of-Way Management, Transportation Services, Toronto and East York District, Assistant Planner, Heritage Preservation Services, City Planning, Manager, Development Engineering, Engineering and Construction Services, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence in support or no opposition from 840, 842, and 844 Broadview Avenue. And could we have your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Bill Monroe. I'm owner of the property, part owner of the property. Mailing address is 17 Edgewood Avenue in Toronto.
Okay. Is there anyone remaining in opposition?
There is not. We met with them.
Okay. And you were able to satisfy any issues they had?
Yeah.
Okay. Panel members, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions? Okay. Any questions?
What about the setbacks? Is setbacks not changed? Is setbacks quite okay?
Yeah, all the setbacks are fine. I think we had the third variance was for a setback for the parking, but I think that we submitted new plans and showed the setback, so we don't have that third variance anymore, I believe.
So you're removing variance number 3?
Yeah.
Number 3.
On both applications?
Yes.
So variance number 3 on,
Parking, no parking.
for the parking space. Setback for the parking space. Okay.
With regard to the use, particularly variance 1 under both, can you speak to why you believe a pure dwelling is appropriate, given that this is zoned mixed commercial?
Yeah. I think I understand what you're asking. The buildings were originally 2 semi-detached houses. At some point, they were converted into duplexes, and later they were converted into duplexes with offices on the ground floor. The owner that we bought from made that two ground floors into one office for his law offices. So we simply want to make them back into 2 semi-detached houses, both as duplexes, so we have 4 residential properties, 4 residential units.
Did he make an application to change the zoning to put in the office, or it was?
Yeah, he got a building permit and everything. I believe it's on file, I think, with the city.
Yeah.
When he originally did it, back around 1982, I think.
Wow.
The office use is compliant. The dwelling is not.
No, what I'm trying to figure is if does the office, was the zoning changed to move from residential to office use? And if you didn't, then we didn't have to deal with that.
There are other full residential properties fronting on Broadview in close proximity, is there not?
There still are, sure, yeah.
How far away are those from the subject property?
I don't know, anybody know that? Closest residential?
Close residential next to the coffee shop on the east side. It's residential. There's about 3 or 4 houses across.
Oh, yeah, just to the north of us on Broadview, north of Pretoria, which is the first street north of us, just one building north of us. There's a coffee shop, and then there's residential, about three or 4 houses.
Further, is there?
And some townhouses up further, right.
Are they within the next block?
The townhouses? I think they're a couple of blocks up, actually, but that was a commercial paint store, I think, that was taken down, and they put up about 8 townhouses there.
So is there any other, so the closest full residential is the next block up
Yeah, it's about 4 units away.
from the subject property?
Right.
Thank you.
So
Any questions?
you're required, in order to change this, you're required to change the zoning bylaw that exists presently. What zoning bylaw do you have for the two residential buildings?
He's going to change the use.
He's not going to change, he's going to change the use?
He's changing the use as a dwelling unit in a CR zone, because a dwelling unit is currently not permitted in a CR zone.
Not permitted?
Right.
The moment, or there used to be from what you say, there was law offices on the,
Law offices on the main floor, residential above.
you want to make it all residential.
That's correct, yeah.
You're saying at some point 30 years ago or something, it was all residential?
It was originally all residential, and it actually was original, and later on duplexed into residential commercial.
Okay, but the CR zoning still applies to this property?
Yes.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Discussion or motion?
I'm going to move a motion for approval as amended, removing variance number 3 on 811 and number 811 Broadview, and variance number 3 on 813 Broadview. I think he's going to have some issues there with start with when he's ready to change it over. But I move for a motion as to approve as amended.
Okay.
And I believe it's based on living of the community there, that it's within the Planning Act and it meets the 4 tests.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
I will second that, noting that the change in use is largely appropriate due to this being the original nature of the structures.
Okay, all in favor? Your application as amended is approved.
811 and 813.
Number 19, 860 College Street. Committee has before it a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property. Correspondence from the Community Planner, City Planning, Toronto and East York District. Senior Planner, City Planning, Strategic Initiatives, Policy and Analysis, Toronto and East York District. Acting Supervisor, Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry, and a Manager of Permits and Enforcement, Parking, Transportation Services. The parties who were here in interest or opposition, are they still here?
Yes, I believe so.
Would you like to sit up on the left-hand side here. So is there any resolutions out of your discussions?
No, I would say that the topics seem to be principal in nature and not something that would be that easy to resolve.
Okay, so if you could please proceed with your presentation, please.
Sure. My name's Raul Seifert, architect.
Thank you.
Representing the owner. Let me just begin by putting this one plan on the overhead here. Spencer, could you? So I think primarily the discussion is going to be about the use of on the site of daycare in general. Just want to show these are statistics from last year from the City of Toronto Child Services showing that there are currently 534 daycare spaces in the postal code area, and there are children the age of 0 to 3, about 1,500. So there's very low coverage in this particular area. Those further east, there is a higher percentage of coverage, but this is one pocket of the city where there are certainly not enough daycare spaces. There are probably too many articles to cite on the topic, the desperate need of daycare in Toronto, the basic dilemma that because there aren't enough daycare spaces, daycare prices are going to rise or are rising. This is from yesterday's Star, explaining that 300 daycare spaces are currently at risk due to cutbacks in funding. Let me just say that our proposal is not to alter the building volume in any way. It is to provide daycare on the upper 2 floors of this building. Of course, the downside of that is that we would be removing 4 residential units, but we believe that we would be providing a much-needed service to the community that could be considered a residential support service. The space would accommodate about 120 children. The objective is for those to be, about 40% of those to be between 3 and 4 years of age. So again, providing a very much needed service. One of the variance items refers to proportion of non-residential use. I just want to point out that in a committee decision in 2015, our approval was already granted to go from the allowable 591 square meters to 976 square meters. So we are here calling for an additional approximately 300 square meters of non-residential use. In addition to that, my opinion is that although this is non-residential, it is a residential service. In general, the owner of the property is convinced that he would like to do something good for the neighborhood. This is not the most lucrative proposition for the building, but a very needed service. As far as parking goes, if you look at the neighborhood in general, that this is to service, there isn't any better place within that area than on one of the main streets. And this being directly on College Street, there would be the possibility of pick up and drop off from the main street. I think that's, yeah.
You don't think parking is an issue here with regards to picking up and dropping off? And
let me put it this way: our client is the owner of a building on Queen Street, which also accommodates daycare, and about the same number of children, and I've been at that daycare in the mornings when the children are being dropped off. And the idea is really that by providing many smaller daycares within the city, you're increasing the walkability, or the ability to take your children to the daycare by walking. So the goal is to provide to people who live in the immediate vicinity, and then of course by placing it on the main street at drop-off times, the parking spaces are more likely to be available. And then finally, I guess the main position is that if we accept the fact that daycare is a use that we want to be able to provide in proximity from residential use, where else do you put it in this neighborhood than on the main street?
Can I? Sure. So based on the transportation report, there's an application in process to transfer 5 spots that are flanking on Concord Avenue to the new owner of the building.
That's right.
Are those going to be for staff, or are you going to have some of those available for drop-off and pickup?
Those could be made available for drop-off.
So you will have, once this transfer takes place, you will have...
We will have the ability, yes. That, I mean, of course, we can't present it as a given right now at this hearing because that hasn't yet been...
But the purpose of that was for parking for drop-off or for other purposes?
The purposes for that were to serve the property, yes. So previous, yeah.
But
I will also add, just in terms of the general intensity of use of the property, as I said, we don't intend to increase the volume of the building at all. It's working entirely within the volume of the building, except for the addition of a rear exit stair, which is, of course, required for exiting purposes and for entering to the daycare. We're providing a ground floor daycare main entry.
And what about the fitness facility? You expect everyone will be walking to that?
Yes. I mean, I'm a resident of the area myself, and I'm a member of the fitness facility across the street, and I walk from my house at Euclid to that fitness facility. I would say the majority of the Y fitness facility users go there by foot, and I can say that after having been a member there for 10 years. Currently, the use of the basement is a bar. It's a track and field bar that attracts quite a few people. So seen that way, it will be a lowering of the intensity of use of the basement. And the other objective here is to provide a grocery store on the ground floor, again, a very much needed use.
So you have seen the staff report of July the 11th. It says that a minimum of 2 parking spaces. How do you address that?
Well, we would be able to provide a minimum of 2 parking spaces.
Okay. All right. Well, if you'd be able to provide a minimum of 2 parking spaces, but you say no parking here.
Which staff report? This is maintaining the commercial boulevards parking spaces. It's the transportation. Where does it say that 2? Where does it say 2 spots?
At the bottom, 2 last 2 lines.
Well, that's the variance.
Yeah. So the minimum is required.
Yeah, that would currently that shows up as a variance, though we have been told that we will get those 5 parking spaces and therefore could need be provide them.
Well, you're saying that no parking spaces will be provided.
What I'm saying is right now here at this hearing, until those 5 parking spaces have been ratified, I can't really present them as a given because they're on city property. But we have been told by Transportation Services that it's very likely that they go through. These 5 parking spaces have served the site previously, and if that is a crucial item, of course, decision could be made contingent upon.
Thank you. We'll hear from the opposition, and then you'll have an opportunity to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, can we have your name and address first, please?
Hi, Nathan Nerling, 409 Dovercourt Road.
409?
Thank you.
So
So my first point is about the traffic and parking. I'd like to go over the numbers for the variance application. There's 600 square meters being converted from residential to this proposed daycare. The Ontario Child Care Act requires up to 2.8 square meters per child, so they propose about 100 children. There could be as many as 200 children just following the guidelines of the Act. So I think there needs to be some assessment as to the volume of people in this building coming and going, right? Also the number of staff. So let's say you only had 100 children, the Act says you need roughly 1.1 staff per child, per 5 children, sorry. So that's 20 staff right there. If only a few of them park, I don't understand where they're going to park. The track and field bar is only open at night, so if it's a gym, it'll be running during the day. Presumably parents going there and picking up their children, some of them will have vehicles. And most of that traffic happens during rush hour. Excuse me. I live between 2 large daycares about the same size as the proposed one at Dovercourt, the YMCA, and then just south at 375 Dovercourt. And the Y has no dedicated parking, and I can tell you it's a nightmare, especially during rush hour at night. It just backs up all over the place. Just in regards to the comment about the lack of daycare space, in the neighborhood, I just actually did a quick Google search, and there's 8 daycare facilities right within the immediate area. So I reject that statement that this area is not served by daycare. I would say actually we're having problems with zoning being transferred from residential to other uses. And I was just taking a quick look in 2018, in April, this committee heard arguments of a similar proposal at 461 Sackville Street for only 82 children and 18 staff, and you denied the applications for reasons of traffic flow and parking. So I think at minimum, a better assessment needs to be done, and I think the developer needs to give us a little more information on exactly how many people they expect to be coming and going from this building. And you're on a one-way street. That's where the boulevard parking is. There's no mention of even how that would operate in the winter when you saw piles of snow. You can't park there sometimes for months. So I think there's a few challenges that need to be addressed. And the act or the stipulation is it's a minimum of 2 spots. It doesn't say that maybe there should be more.
Is there parking restrictions in that area of College Street in the morning and afternoon rush hours?
There are. You can't, I think at the corner you can't even stop, and at 3:30 you can't. I've been ticketed there myself. I live like a 3-minute walk, and I've sometimes parked at right around that location. It is very busy. There's also no safety crossings between the 2 lights. You have a whole intersection between Dovercourt and Ossington. The property is right in the middle of that. There is no way to cross the street unless safely, I would imagine, with children, unless you go to the lights. And so I can imagine even for pedestrian traffic, it presents a problem with people going to this location, even on foot, parking and traffic aside. I just don't understand the flow of traffic, how you could drop off children, like we're talking a minimum of, I would say, 20% of people are driving their kids to daycare. Just from what I can see and my personal observations with my friends and other residents in the area, people drive to work. Most people commute outside of the downtown core.
Okay. All
Sorry.
right. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir. If you have anything you wish to say in rebuttal to the issues that have been raised?
Just quickly, I would like to comment on the piles of snow issue. We certainly can guarantee that the parking spaces would be kept free of snow. I would like to add that the traffic lights allowing one to cross the street are simply one block further east. So it's not, I don't think that that's really an issue. The Sackville precedent, the Cabbagetown precedent, is a very different situation where the daycare was being proposed right smack in the middle of a residential area. And in this case, my opinion is that we're putting the daycare on the main street, which is presumably better destined, best possible location for daycare in the neighborhood. You know, the problems that if we can't accommodate parking, then that would essentially exclude localized daycare use, and that of course can't be the solution either.
So how do you propose drop-in and managing that?
Well,
who don't arrive on foot.
For those that don't arrive on foot, and of course we can only speculate on the number of users that will be, but as I said, it is a main street, and there is parking on both sides of the street, and those parking spaces can be used for
During morning and afternoon rush hours?
during morning and afternoon rush hours.
So
Definitely.
there's no restrictions for stopping or parking?
There is a restriction at the very corner, but otherwise there are no restrictions.
Not in front of your property?
Right. And I know I'd have to add that as has been proposed to solve the situation in Cabbagetown, of course, should problems develop in the future, it's those Main Street parking spaces, a couple could be dedicated to drop off. Need be. I just want to see where a better location within the area than this one, as far as traffic goes.
Okay. Anything else?
Thanks. No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Well, as I see it, parking is absolutely an issue, but it's universal in this area. And I don't see a way of providing spaces directly on site, nor do I see that meeting the minimum here would make any real difference to pick-up and drop-off issues. I mean, the use itself is allowable, and modifications to the building are entirely appropriate. The case against it, I'm sympathetic to the concerns about traffic, but what's being proposed makes sense here. And we're not here to look at business case for the daycare, and it is true that conversion of residences to daycare uses has been a concern, but this is not a dwelling. It's a loss of dwelling units, but it's not a house in a residential area. We're talking about mixed-use structure on a mixed-use avenue that is zoned CR. So I am in support of this, and I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no further.
I guess my question is about the transportation request here, the request to parking spaces. And I think one of the reasons for that is because at certain times of the day, particularly those times of drop-off and pick-up, that location, and I know this from other studies, that location has no stopping within the area. And and I know that is a time when people want to drop off or pick up their children. And I don't know if we can't find another, I had some problems with it. No, what do we do if transportation says you need to get the parking and we're saying, well, we're not going to give you, we're not going to worry what transportation say?
Well, transportation is actually saying that they do not object to the variances. You're actually looking in the comments where they merely have the variance being requested written down. So they are in the throes of, there's an application that's in process to transfer the previous owner's 5 boulevard parking spaces to the new owner. So this is only referencing the variance that's being asked for. They're not asking for 2 spots. They're letting us know that there's 5 in the throes of being transferred. So in terms of the planning, I would echo Mr. Carlson's comments, and I would be prepared to second his motion if.
Would the motion not include recommendation of staff?
There is no recommendation of staff. There isn't a recommendation, any other than that if there's alterations to those parking spots that are flanking Concord Avenue, they have to go and talk to them for a license. But that's not our jurisdiction. There's no recommendation for us in this report. No. And then, yeah, there's an urban forestry condition, number 1.
Okay, so it's a motion.
There's no further comment then. I move approval of the application as I believe it to be an appropriate development for the site, and that includes forestry condition number 1.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Mr. Russell, are you dissenting?
Yes.
Okay. So the application is approved with that condition. Okay, thank you. So there was a forestry had a condition. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so according to me, we are done in the morning session.
Yeah.
So committee's morning session is adjourned at 12:34.
It's not pouring.
Go for lunch, it's 1 o'clock.